Ireland's story begins where myth meets reality, on its shores where the first footsteps of humankind were lost in the final days of the Ice Age. A land where magic weaves its secrets among its verdant mountains and misty valleys, where the remnants of mysterious civilizations lie hidden, from the ancient Newgrange burial mounds to the whispered tales of the Celtics. Here, on this small island, past and present intertwine, reality and myth, so that every hill and every river becomes a silent witness to the journey of a people who defied hunger and invaders, transforming pain into strength, poverty into innovation, and writing a new chapter of history that continues to unfold to this day. Welcome to this new video in our series on the history of European countries. Ireland's story begins when trembling feet first touched its shores during the final days of the Ice Age. These early pioneers lived as hunter-gatherers, following salmon in the rivers and gathering chestnuts, gradually discovering the land's true fertility. From this discovery, Ireland began its first chapter in the story of a mysterious civilization, transitioning from gathering food to cultivating crops. With every seed planted, magic and mystery began to weave their threads around the island. As time passed, the Irish began to build enigmatic monuments that bear witness to an ancient civilization we don't fully understand. Perhaps the most prominent is Newgrange, the circular dome built around 3200 BC, long before the Egyptian pyramids, which remains a living enigma, filled with symbols and secrets that historians and archaeologists have tried, unsuccessfully, to decipher. Then came the Bronze Age, also shrouded in mystery, as the island was influenced by the pottery culture. Yet the details of their daily lives and stories remain hidden within the folds of time. The Irish began developing metal tools and building defensive structures and religious monuments, reflecting a rich and profound culture, even if many of its secrets remain unknown. With the advent of the Iron Age came the arrival of the Celts, who gave Ireland its cultural, linguistic and religious identity. The island's name is derived from a Celtic goddess, and the land was divided into tohas, small territories ruled by tribal chieftains, with no formal writing system, leaving their oral history as a legend passed down through generations. With the Roman occupation of neighbouring Britain, the Irish endured a period of obscure darkness, punctuated by raids on British settlements. During these raids, a young Christian was captured and taken as a slave, but he later escaped and returned, driven by a heavenly vision. This St. Patrick, who would later become the island's patron saint, carried the cross, reading and writing, translating the secrets of the ancient island into Latin script and documenting its legends before they faded into the silence of time. In remote locations like Skellig Michael, Irish monks carefully copied and preserved ancient texts, safeguarding the island's heritage against the forces of chaos coming from the sea. In 795, Norse Vikings began raiding the coasts and establishing fortified settlements, vowing to rule the entire island. However, their dream was shattered at the Battle of Clontarf in 1014 by King Brian Borova, who became a symbol of Irish resistance against the invaders. A century later, the Normans arrived from England, bringing with them castles and laws, but they also adopted Irish customs. The lines of identity between Normans and Irish people blurred, and even their surnames became Gaelic, a symbol of profound cultural fusion. However, English dominance was never fully established. The Irish kingdoms waged a continuous war against the invaders, and with the spread of the Black Death in the 14th century, English territory shrank to Greater Dublin. while rebellion and resistance continued in the heart of the island. In the 16th century, Henry VIII attempted to reassert English control, leading to the bloody 9 Years' War under Hugh O'Neill. The conflicts over land and religion persisted, and Irish anger flared when land was confiscated and settled by Protestants. The Ulster plantations became a symbol of oppression and resistance, culminating in the 1641 rebellion led by Vallam O'Neill. This rebellion achieved temporary gains, but did not end the centuries-long struggle. They seized power, mercilessly attacking and slaughtering Protestant settlers, igniting the Irish Confederation Wars, a period of bloodshed and fierce resistance, during which the island endured days of terror and reciprocal revenge. It wasn't long before the English intensified their efforts to regain control, sending one of the most ruthless generals of his time, Oliver Cromwell, later known as the Lord Protector, who arrived in Ireland armed to the teeth. His mission, he believed, was just retribution, but what the Irish witnessed was horrific massacres, blood and carnage that haunted the Irish people for decades, so much so that even today Cromwell's name evokes disgust and revulsion. The war ended with the island devastated and ravaged, hundreds of thousands of Irish people killed or displaced, while tens of thousands more fled across the seas to work in the New World, carrying with them memories of their shattered homeland and hopes for survival. The Protestants maintained their control over the land, but their anxiety grew when the Catholic James II ascended the English throne in 1685. Religious tensions between Catholics and Protestants escalated, and his Protestant daughter Mary and her Dutch husband William were invited to seize the throne in what became known as the Glorious Revolution. James, however, managed to retain control of Ireland and devised plans to reconquer Britain. In the ensuing war, he was utterly defeated by William's forces, and his defeat at the Battle of Boyne in 1690 established Protestant dominance over the island. The majority of Irish Catholics were disenfranchised, remaining impoverished peasants under a rigid land system, denied any role in governing their country. Over time, their suffering was compounded by natural famines, frosts and droughts, culminating in the Blue Night famine of the 1740s, which killed hundreds of thousands and left a lasting scar on the nation's social fabric. With the outbreak of the French and American revolutions, the Irish found inspiration for rebellion. The Irish United Society led a revolt against British rule in 1798, but it was violently suppressed. The Acts of Union were then imposed, formally making Ireland part of the United Kingdom, while the people continued to be denied basic political rights. However, Daniel O'Connell, an eloquent orator and Irish guardian of liberty, emerged. He led a movement to reform the law and empower Catholics, sparking hope in the hearts of the people. His pressure resulted in the Relief Act of 1829, which allowed Catholics to enter Parliament and repealed many anti-Catholic laws. But a new threat soon emerged in the form of over-reliance on potatoes, which formed the mainstay of the island's diet. In 1845, an unprecedented catastrophe struck. A plant disease known as blight ravaged the potato crop, leading to widespread famine. 1 million people died, and millions more emigrated, leaving their homeland behind for America, Canada and Australia, where the Irish diaspora began its long journey, carrying with it stories of hunger, injustice and the hope for a better life. While the new Irish settlers in America began lobbying for land ownership and improved living conditions, this was not enough to quell the islanders' desire for self-government. The Protestant northeast remained loyal to Britain until Home Rule was finally granted in 1914, a process delayed by World War I. However, this did not satisfy the Republican extremists, and the 1916 Dublin uprising erupted, which the British crushed, but which left martyrs like the poet Patrick Pearse, who became symbols of resilience and sacrifice. The 1918 elections saw a victory for the pro-Republican Sinn Féin party, and Irish independence was declared. This sparked a civil war and assassinations before the 1921 Treaty of Ireland was signed. Under this treaty, the North East chose to remain within the United Kingdom as Northern Ireland, while the rest of the country gained independence as the Irish Free State. Despite some continued opposition to the treaty, the Civil War ended with a victory for the treaty's supporters, backed by British military support. In 1937, the Free State adopted its new name, Ireland. In 1949, it officially became a republic, ushering in an era of economic and social reform under the leadership of Chan Lama, promising a brighter future for the island, which had long suffered from conflict, famine and oppression. Later, Ireland participated in world wars, particularly World War II, while maintaining relative neutrality. However, it suffered the war's economic and political consequences. Since the mid-20th century, the country has undergone profound transformations on political, economic, social and cultural levels. 1973 marked a significant turning point in the country's history when Ireland officially joined the European Union, a move that opened up vast opportunities for trade, investment and development. In the early 1990s, the country experienced what became known as the Celtic Tiger, a period of rapid and remarkable economic growth. Foreign investment poured in, the technology and financial industries flourished, and per capita income rose dramatically. Ireland transformed from an agrarian, agriculture-based nation into a regional hub for technology and innovation, a transformation that impressed the world and became a model for economic development in Europe. By the first decade of the 21st century, the country had suddenly declined due to a global economic crisis. This crisis caused a drop in investment and a slowdown in the real estate market. Many Irish people lost their jobs and homes, plunging them into a difficult period of recession and economic anxiety. However, Ireland proved its resilience, recovering after several years and achieving a remarkable economic revival. Financial and technological institutions stabilized, creative industries began to expand again, and growth gradually returned, placing the country among the wealthiest nations. Today, Ireland ranks among the richest countries in the world and enjoys a very high level of human development. Its citizens enjoy relatively stable lives with access to advanced education and health care. Yet the country still retains traditional aspects of its social culture, such as the tendency to indulge in alcohol on special occasions, which is part of Irish folklore and identity, blending celebration of life with a sense of merriment. The transformation from the abject poverty and famine of the 19th century to a prosperous nation with a strong economy is an extraordinary historical achievement, demonstrating the Irish people's capacity for resilience, innovation and rebuilding time and again. Ireland's success is not limited to the economy alone. The astonishing abundance of talent on this small island extends far beyond the realms of finance and industry. The Irish have excelled in all fields, from science to sports, from politics to art, and have left a global mark in literature, music and art, drawing on their rich history and deep cultural traditions. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.